The Disco Doctor's in session. What is going on, boys? Today we're talking about the absolute dumbest pieces of motorcycle advice I've ever heard in my life. You know how everybody becomes a self-certified rider coach the moment you tell them you ride a motorcycle? Listen, I've heard it all. I've been doing this game a long time. Everything from, you'll outgrow that 300 in a week, to, brother, loud pipes save lives. Spoiler alert, you guys are dumb. But I will admit that most of the time, this advice does come from a good place. Your uncle, your buddy at the bar, the Harley brother that lives next door with a garage full of busted shovel heads, or the squid down the street. They're not trying to kill you. They don't really know what the hell they're talking about. So today, we're going to break down 7 of the worst pieces of advice floating around in the motorcycling world. Let's get into it. The first piece of horrible advice is as common as it is stupid. Maybe you've heard of it. It goes a little something like this. Just get a 600. You'll outgrow your beginner bike in a week. You've likely heard this before, either from an overly ambitious salesman at the dealership or from a buddy who thinks he has your financial best interest in mind. They'll probably say something like, dude, don't bother with that Ninja 400. You'll be bored in a week. What you really need is a 636, or if you're man enough and you can hold on to it for a while, get a ZX10. It's an investment. The intent with this piece of misplaced advice is twofold. They think you'll be saving money by skipping the so-called starter bike and just going to something bigger that you're not going to outgrow. Or they think you'll gain respect faster if you start on something more substantial, because that's why we all ride, right? To earn the approval of other men. I don't know about you, but that's the most beta shit I've ever heard in my life. First off, you will not outgrow a beginner bike in a week. What you will outgrow in a week is your ability to ride around the block without stalling at every stoplight. A Ninja 400 or an R3 will absolutely humble you for months, if not years, if you actually take it seriously. Not because of horsepower, but because you'll realize how much of motorcycling is your own ability, not the bike. Cornering lines, throttle control, braking technique, all that stuff takes a lot of time and thousands of miles and lots of hours in the saddle to master. And a so-called slow bike is the best classroom to learn. Second, the whole save money by buying once idea doesn't really hold any water either. A bigger, faster bike doesn't just cost more upfront, it's higher insurance, more expensive tires, pricier maintenance, and usually gets wrecked quicker because, surprise, surprise, new riders don't actually know what they're doing. Especially bikes that they're unqualified to operate. Do you really want your first parking lot tip over to be on a $20,000 super bike? That would honestly be an ideal situation if the alternative is crashing it directly into a concrete barrier at triple-digit speeds. Finally, let's kill the biggest excuse. I'll just use a judicious throttle and it has rain mode. I got this. Judicious throttle sounds good in theory, but when you're nervous, distracted, or target fixated, your wrist doesn't always listen. Rain mode isn't some magical guardian angel either, it just dulls the throttle response a little. It can still go plenty fast. A 200 horsepower motorcycle in rain mode is in no way comparable to a 50 horsepower beginner bike. And I'd like to posit the following situation for you. When you say that you've outgrown your beginner bike, can you drag knee on it? Can you drag elbow on it? Can you cut up faster lap times than anyone else? Can you outgun the riders on your local twisty roads? Can you wheelie it? Can you stoppie it? You have more to learn. I have more to learn. I'm not the best rider in the world. You can always learn more. Sometimes you want to get into riding, so you ask an older or experienced rider if they have any advice, and instead they hit you with, don't buy one at all. Now this one's crazy, and it's not even advice, it's a bit of a weird cop-out, because instead of actually giving you guidance, they say you should just avoid it altogether, whether it be due to danger, cost, or some other negative consequence. This often comes from people who actually ride too, not just some negative Karen on Facebook. The intent behind this is obvious. They're trying to protect you, I guess. They've seen the crash stats. They've watched way too many epic fail biker videos on YouTube from like 10 years ago, or maybe they lost some riding buddies to crashes. It comes from fear, not malice. But this advice is about as useful as saying the safest form of contraception is abstinence. technically true, but realistically useless. Someone suggesting that riding a motorcycle isn't worth it denies you the opportunity to learn, grow, and experience something that millions of people all around the world do every single day. It's ironic because in most parts of the world, motorcycles aren't some elite toy for adrenaline junkies. They're just transportation. Families of 4 ride around on 125s through chaotic, crowded cities with less drama than an American ordering fast food at the drive-thru. So the idea that you need to be some superhuman alpha brain to ride a bike is just Western motorcycle gatekeeping. Here at Yami Noob, we're very into the Eastern healing medicinal powers of motorcycles. We do not want to keep them locked away in the Western gatekeeping tradition. Namaste. Instead of scaring people away, give them resources. Suggest taking the MSF, explain strategies to mitigate the costs, show them the gear that they need, and help them get started responsibly. Telling someone who wants to get on 2 wheels to not ride solves nothing. All right, love this one. I hear this a lot at the track. When in doubt, throttle out. You can never trust any piece of riding advice that rhymes. It's just a little too convenient, right? You're telling me this is a universal get-out-of-jail-free card for motorcycling and it rhymes so you can easily remember it? It's too good to be true! The intent of this advice is simple and not completely wrong. If you're unstable on your bike, whether it be mid-corner or amidst a front-end wobble, adding throttle can stabilize the bike. And in some context, yeah, maybe it's true, but somewhere along the way, people started thinking it's a universal fix for every riding problem. And spoiler alert, it is not. If you're leaned over too far, running wide, or heading straight for a guardrail, whacking the throttle open is not going to save you. In fact, it's probably going to make the situation worse, because when you hit the throttle, the bike wants to open up its radius, stand up, and go straight. So that doesn't make sense. This advice turns into an excuse for squids to treat the throttle like a panic button. Learn proper cornering and braking techniques. I know, shocker, but you should probably do that. Sometimes the right move is to add throttle, stabilize the bike, gas it up, get it out pointed straight, right? But sometimes it's the trail brake, stand the bike up, or simply slow down before the corner in the first place. There is no one-size-fits-all solution, and very rarely in traffic, I'm talking like 0.001% of the time, adding speed solves whatever problem you're trying to solve. Adding speed does not do that. It usually makes the problem worse. You know how every few years, a camera comes along that makes you rethink what type of footage is possible to capture on board a motorcycle? Motorcycle content is a whole new landscape thanks to cameras like this. The DJI Osmo 360 doesn't just say 8K, it means it. You're getting true native 8K capture with a massive dynamic range. There's 13.5 stops of light and shadow detail, so everything from the sparkle of the light hitting the gas tank to the shadows under the bridge looks crisp and balanced. This thing shoots up to 8K at 50 frames per second. That's the highest resolution you'll find in a consumer 360 camera. Motion looks silky smooth even when you're tearing it up on track or tearing up your local twisties. The Osmo 360 uses the industry's first 1-inch 360-degree imaging square sensor with an f1.9 aperture that drinks in light. Flip on super night mode and you'll capture neon reflections, city skylines, and tail light streaks like a movie scene. Whether you're filming a canyon run at sunrise or a midnight ride downtown, the Osmo 360 keeps everything detailed, sharp, and cinematic. No noise, no grain, no fuss. If you ever wanted your riding footage to look like it belongs on the big screen, then this is your tool. Hit the link in the description to grab your DJI Osmo 360 and step into true 8K riding footage today. This is another great one. You'll never see a motorcycle parked at a therapist's office. This one is a pretty classic certified boomer Facebook slogan. The intent is positive. Motorcycling is therapeutic in many ways, and this expression suggests that riding a motorcycle alleviates all mental health or personal turmoil. And sure, there are definitely mental health benefits that come from riding bikes. It forces you to unplug from screens, being focused on the road, using all of your limbs, engaging in a fun activity, bolstering a sense of self-reliance and confidence. I'm a big advocate. Obviously, you're watching this channel where all I do is talk about bikes. Many riders find that being on 2 wheels has a meditative quality, putting you into a tuned Zen state. As I said, Eastern medicinal practices. Let's not kid ourselves here. Motorcyclists are not exactly poster children for the mentally stable and sound. Riders are often obsessive, neurotic, and for some reason, downright unhinged. Who, me? No, come on. Motorcycle enthusiasts will spend hours arguing online about oil viscosity or memorizing horsepower figures like Bible verses. In the most basic sense, motorcyclists find towing the line between life and death to be fun. That is a primal feeling riding allows you to tap into, but it's not exactly kosher in a modern safety-conscious society. I mean, how many times have you gone out for a ride and you're like, oh boy, I barely got away with it today, and the feeling starts tingling up in your body and you get so pumped and jazzed up and ready to go. I mean, that's not like mentally stable, right? That's weird. The idea that motorcycles magically erase mental health struggles is a dangerous oversimplification. Riding can help, but it's not a cure. And sometimes it comes across as more of a symptom. Constant need for speed, risk-taking, and identity building around a machine can be just as unhealthy if it's your only outlet. And another point to add on to here as well is that sometimes riders choose to use motorcycling for almost like anti-therapy. We've often clowned on this here on the channel, the super emo Instagram post, what if I never made it back tonight? But seriously, if you're feeling suicidal, do not get on a motorcycle because they can unalive you like that. Harley guys are always saying the most wild stuff like, hello everyone, I'm a raging homosexual and I ride a motorcycle. Don't clip that. Come on, folks. We're going to just lump a handful into this one section here and we can just kind of get the ball rolling. Some of the greatest hits include, don't wear a helmet, it's going to snap your neck in a crash. I've heard this one before. It's just what a blatantly wrong, insane thing to say. That doesn't even make any sense. There can't be any provable correlation between helmet use and increased neck injuries. What is proven by data is that helmet use prevents traumatic brain injuries. Riders who will forego helmet use also say stuff like, I'd rather be dead than be a vegetable. Ooh, you're really hardcore. What a dumb, edgelord, nihilistic thing to say. Or sometimes there's a classic, sometimes you gotta lay her down instead of crashing. This one must be traced back to ancient times, from back before bikes had any modern decent brakes. I mean, any current motorcycle can stop or swerve to avoid a collision way better than intentionally low-siding onto asphalt. I also love thinking about the fact that this rider is purposefully mid-corner, like calculating the pros and cons of going to the guardrail or low-siding, and then purposefully decides, yeah, I'm just going to yeet this thing into the ground. It makes zero sense. There's no tactical advantage. Unless you're in an action movie and your name is Tom Cruise, you need to skid beneath a jackknifed 18-wheeler, and then you can tell a really cool story at the bar that no one's going to believe. Then everyone started clapping after you emerged from underneath the 18-wheeler. You saved all the puppies in the back. It was incredible. The same guys also say it's dangerous to use the front brake in an emergency. That's not how physics works. Do they think using the front brake will cause an 800-pound Harley to flip onto its front wheel into a stoppie? Seriously? Front brakes are like 70% of your stopping power. Avoiding them is like tying your dominant hand behind your back before you open a private browser tab. Not ideal. The intent behind all of this Harley advice is usually to sound wise and tough. These guys want to pass down biker lore, but a lot of it is leftover nonsense from the 1960s that is easily disproven with a simple Google search. Yeah, that actually sounds like a lot of people in this world, huh? Easily disprovable with a simple Google search. Don't believe everything you hear. Another great quote is, you don't need ABS. It's usually something that comes from old school purists or degen street squids that are too big for their britches. The claim is that ABS is an unnecessary crutch for beginners, and with skill, you can actually outbrake ABS every time. These riders want to feel connected to their machine, and they believe that the electronic safety systems just get in the way of the real pure riding. In some very specific scenarios, like off-road riding or extremely skilled track riding, ABS can be intrusive. But in reality, in true emergencies on the street, very few riders can consistently outbrake a modern ABS system. Humans panic, grab too much lever, and risk locking up their wheels, which, even if it doesn't result in a crash, dramatically increases the stopping distance anyways. Alternatively, in emergency situations, science has proven that computers don't panic. Data shows ABS reduces crash risk by a huge margin, which is why it's mandatory on new bikes in Europe. If you're a casual street rider, just leave your ABS on. You're probably not even going to feel it on the front lever because you're not braking hard enough. It's a safety net, not a crutch. If you're a track rat or adventure rider who knows what you're doing, by all means, just turn it off in the right context. I'm not going to tell you to not turn off your ABS. Just don't pretend that deleting ABS makes you more talented than you actually are. Here's one we get a lot, and we actually talk about this a lot, the ergonomics portions of our videos. It's that bike is too big for you. This is a classic textbook example of gatekeeping. Call me a commie lib, but it usually has a bit of a misogynistic tone to it as well. You never really hear someone say that to a short king, like be like, oh bro, don't worry about being 5'2", you can make a Busa work for you. But then a female rider probably hears it every time they take their adventure bike to the gas station. I mean, come on, double standards, right? The intent is probably well-meaning on the surface. People don't want to see a pretty sweet little damsel in distress struggling with a big, heavy, tall machine. And wait, it's another common trope. It's the white knight coming to show the female how to ride the machine. Oh, the big, strong man is going to come and suggest some smaller, more accessible motorcycles, despite knowing nothing about their experience or ability. But the reality is, with the right technique, almost anyone can ride anything. Men, women, furries, all kinds of autists throughout the spectrum here on YamiNoob can ride anything you want. You don't need both feet flat on the ground. You just need balance, control, and the right techniques. Short riders have been conquering huge adventure bikes for years with the right skills. Dismissing someone based on height or gender is just weird. Mind your own damn business. Also, lifting heavy bikes, it's just a matter of leverage. Anyone with normal-sized legs can probably lift it up off the ground using the little, back technique. So that's not even a big issue either. So there you have it, folks. 7 of the worst pieces of motorcycle advice I've ever heard. Most of the stuff comes from people who mean well, and I want to believe that, but bad habits and outdated wisdom can be just as dangerous as no advice at all. While it is possible to be fatigued by the massive amounts of riding information on the internet, when it comes to taking advice from others IRL, a little fact-checking goes a very long way. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video today. I truly do appreciate it. I'll catch you on the next one. See you later. Fact. In medieval Europe, instead of plates, people ate their food off stale, days-old bread called trenchers. And I'm supposed to believe Europeans are the harbingers of clean